Raider Nation, what is going on, everybody? I'm going to give you guys just a second to kind of get in here, but wow. I'm very surprised with this news, man. The Denver Broncos just traded for Russell Wilson. We talked about this. The Broncos were kind of interested earlier, and I hope you guys can all hear me. The Broncos were kind of interested in Aaron Rodgers, and we heard these rumors, and we're kind of told like the Raiders are about to have the worst quarterback in the division. Which isn't a bad thing. Our division has a lot of good quarterbacks, and it's you can argue Herbert or Carr, but we either have the third or fourth best quarterback in this division, and it just got that much tougher. This really hinders the Raiders' playoff chances, which isn't a big deal, right? To be the best, I guess you got to beat the best teams, right? But yeah, man, I hear what some of you guys are saying. Some of you guys are asking if this is true. This is factually true. I mean, multiple people have reported it at this point. Tom Pelissero reports, and he says the following. He says the Seahawks and the Broncos have agreed in principle on a trade sending 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson to Denver for a massive haul, including multiple first-round draft picks, plus additional picks and players per source. Which is very interesting, right? So I don't know exactly what that kind of means, right? Is that does that mean the Broncos are giving up certain players? I'm gonna assume so. But what's crazy is the fact that we were kind of told that the Denver Broncos would go all in on a quarterback, 100%. They'd be all in on a quarterback, and they were all in on a quarterback. It's crazy to think that like Aaron Rodgers just got re-signed. In fact, I'm uploading a video right now, and the reason why I'm live is because I have a video that's pending that I'm about to upload talking about the Aaron Rodgers situation and kind of how that impacts Derek Carr. But it also impacted the Broncos because the Broncos were clearly interested in getting a quarterback. They were clearly all in on Aaron Rodgers. A guy that I follow on Twitter, Benjamin Albright, actually talked about it. He talked about how the Broncos were all in on Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that didn't work out for them. And their second option was, of course, Russell Wilson. Here's the thing. The Broncos did this in the past, man. Just a couple years back, they did this with Peyton Manning. Towards the end of his career, they went all in on Peyton Manning. They already had a great roster in place. And let's be honest, the Denver Broncos have a better roster than the Raiders, right? The only difference last year with the Raiders and the Broncos was the quarterbacks. And the fact that they just got a quarterback in Russell Wilson, that's scary, man. That's very scary. I hear a lot of people saying we're screwed, but not using the word screwed, using a different word. I hear a lot of people talking about how the Raiders will now be in fourth place. I don't know. It's definitely a real possibility, man. Some people are saying Wilson is old. Carr is better. Ricky G. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with that? Is Russell Wilson old and is Derek Carr better than Russell Wilson? I don't think so. I don't think Derek Carr is better than Russell Wilson. Some people are saying Wilson has to agree on the trade. I don't know if that's true, but I don't see why. If that was true, I don't see why the Seattle Seahawks wouldn't at least consider talking to Russell Wilson and having his approval before making this type of trade. Very interesting. And there's other impacts from this trade as well, right? Just an example, DK Metcalf may now be traded, right? And then you look at the Seahawks, what are they going to do at quarterback? Like, are some of those players up for trade? DK Metcalf is just an example of a really solid football player on that roster. It's going to be very interesting, right? The Seahawks kind of went all in, right? They gave up a lot for Jamal Adams. They gave up a ton to get DK Metcalf and some of these other guys and pieces to put on the offense of the ball. It didn't necessarily work out, and Russell Wilson was done with the Seahawks. And what's crazy is typically we hear these type of rumors that a player wants to get traded or whatever it may be, and a lot of the time they're just rumors, right? For the longest time it was Tom Brady. For the longest time it was Aaron Rodgers, even Russell Wilson for the longest time, and even with Derek Carr, we hear this with our quarterback as well. But the fact that it actually happened, this is huge for the Raiders. Again, I don't know what the exact compensation. We'll obviously see what kind of what the compensation is. But according to Adam Schefter, he did say Drew Lock is a part of the trade to the Seahawks. I don't know what that does. I don't know if the Seahawks actually believe in Drew Lock, but they'll find out real quickly. Drew Lock is not a good quarterback. But I want to know what you guys think. Rank your guys' quarterbacks in the AFC West down below. We got 4 quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, and now Russell Wilson. Of course, I will give you guys my rankings, but I want to know what you guys think, man. I definitely want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment and let me know how you guys feel about this entire situation. It's a very crazy situation with the Raiders because some people have talked about how Derek Carr should potentially be traded. Russell Wilson's a target, Aaron Rodgers is a target. And as of right now, 11 a.m., those 2 guys are off the market. Those guys aren't an option now at this point for the Raiders. It's just such a crazy situation. Abram said Russell Wilson has a no trade clause on his contract, but he's willing to get traded to the Broncos. And I agree with that. I think that's exactly what it is. It doesn't make sense for a player or for a team to trade a player and not have permission from that player, especially if it's a player of Russell Wilson's caliber. The last thing Russell Wilson's going to do is be traded by a team and then say, I'm not leaving this team, right? Like that doesn't make a ton of sense. The Alphabet Song said all the quarterbacks in the division are elite. I don't know if I would say they're all elite. I would say right now the 2 proven elite quarterbacks, obviously Patrick Mahomes is elite. I wouldn't even say the other. I wouldn't say Justin Herbert or Derek Carr are elite. I think the word elite gets thrown around way too loosely. I think Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes for sure is elite. And aside from Patrick Mahomes in the league, Aaron Rodgers may be the only other elite quarterback right now. I would say Russell Wilson's very close, but I wouldn't even say Russell Wilson's elite, right? I mean, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, man. Some people are saying we good. Wilson is not Rodgers. I see you guys' comments, man. And if you guys want to be featured on the channel, super chat is the way to go. I see a lot of people ranking quarterbacks. Eric said Mahomes, Wilson, Carr, Herbert. Blake Villy said Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, and Wilson. It's very interesting because I think a lot of people are kind of down on Russell Wilson, and I'm actually surprised that that's the case. Very surprised that people are down on Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson, before this past season, most people would have said is a top 5 quarterback. I still think Russell Wilson's a top 5 quarterback. Like outside of Mahomes and then Rodgers, right now in the league, you can make the argument that Russell Wilson is the 3rd best quarterback. At least you can make the argument. I'm not saying he is, but the argument could be made that Russell Wilson is the 3rd best quarterback in the entire league. The same argument, of course, could be made for guys like Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen, right? It's an argument, right? I'm not saying he is the 3rd best. I'm just saying the argument could be made. And it's very interesting that a lot of people are kind of down on Russell Wilson. At the end of the year, players have bad years, right? Derek Carr had a bad year a couple seasons back. Then he bounced back over the past 2 years. Patrick Mahomes didn't have his best year in the beginning of this year, and then he kind of bounced back. Aaron Rodgers, I think just 3 years ago, had a terrible year, and they went out and drafted a quarterback in the 1st round. People have bad years. But the fact that Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is going to bounce right back. Let me confirm his age. I know he's definitely on the back end of his career, but at 33 years old, keep in mind he'll turn 34 during the season this year. He still has a good 3 to 5 years left, right? Like, let's be honest. Aaron Rodgers is how old? Tom Brady lasted how long? Same with Drew Brees, same with Big Ben, same with Matt Ryan. These guys lasted a long time, and I think Russell Wilson definitely still has a couple of years left. I will say this with the Denver Broncos. Now you bring in a guy with Russell Wilson. Look at the weapons that Wilson's going to have, right? They have some good weapons in Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant. And I know some people will say those guys aren't that good, but keep in mind they had a mixture of Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater as their quarterback over the past couple of seasons. You give those weapons an elite quarterback like Russell Wilson, those guys will be having great years. If you guys are into fantasy football, man, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, draft those guys because those guys are about to have all of them will probably have their best year of their career. Stranger Than Fiction said Raiders trade for Watson. That would be crazy if somehow the Las Vegas Raiders traded for Deshaun Watson. Obviously, he would have to have his case settled and all that good stuff. But I'm still shocked the fact that the Raiders went ahead and did this. I'm sorry, the Broncos went ahead and did this. Dakota said he's 2 years older than Carr. It's gonna be interesting what the Raiders do in response to this type of move. A lot of the time, teams will respond to these type of things. I'm not saying the Raiders can get a new quarterback, right? Obviously, that's not the case. But how are we going to fix and give our quarterback weapons, right? Like, we need to make sure that Derek Carr has every opportunity to succeed. Rather, Derek Carr gets a top tier wide receiver, rather he gets a top tier tight end. And I know he has Darren Waller, but uh, we need to kind of see what the Raiders can get for Carr this year, because let's be honest. The Chiefs are the best team in the division, and the Broncos will be right behind them. And the Broncos will compete with the Chiefs. And both of those teams will win anywhere from 11 to 12 games this year, maybe more. The Chargers last year, had they not had Justin Herbert, would have won 3 or 4 games. Like, that team was terrible. They had, I think, the second worst defense in the league. And they're continuing to build. And if they can keep building that team, they're a 10-win team, right? Not saying the Raiders aren't. We won 10 games this past year as well, right? So it's going to be very interesting to kind of see what the division, kind of how it happens this upcoming year. But overall, I do expect the Raiders to definitely get better. What do we do with our fifth-year options? What do we do with some of the guys that need contracts? We'll get into that in just a second. I want to get into some more comments. And then I'm going to kind of talk about the Raiders and how I think how they can fix their team, right? Because we absolutely have to figure it out at this point. I see a lot of you guys' comments. People are saying we need to build the defense, right? Josu, I believe is how you say your name, said defense. That's a good thought, right? How do you stop top tier quarterbacks? How do you stop Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson? You stop them by having a great defense, which makes me believe, should the Raiders go with the defender at pick 22? Is it a corner? Is it a safety? What would the Raiders do? Now, here's an alternative option. Would you guys be interested in the Raiders potentially moving up in the draft, maybe 10 picks, to take a defender? Last year, Michael Parsons went with the 11th pick overall, and Michael Parsons is a game changer. You can get a game changer with maybe the 11th pick again, or maybe a top 15 pick. I know we would have to maybe give up an additional third-round pick, but let's be honest, third, fourth, fifth-round picks, they typically don't pan into superstar players. And what I'm talking about is the Raiders trade their first-round pick and a third-round pick, and they get a superstar player. Devin Lloyd may still be there. Even Dean from Georgia, people love Dean, and I haven't fully watched enough tape on Dean yet. I actually plan to do that this week. But Devin Lloyd is a game changer, in my opinion. What about a guy like Devontae Wyatt or a guy like Jordan Davis? I did a film study on Devontae Wyatt yesterday. I love Wyatt, and I think Wyatt has the pass rushing skills that you need to get to the quarterback. The Chiefs have a great pass rusher in Chris Jones from the inside. The Chargers have Nwosu as well as Joey Bosa. The Raiders have Max Crosby, and that's a great start. But outside of Max Crosby, who do we have outside of that? And I know some people would say Unique Ngakoue, but I think Ngakoue is not that good. That's just my opinion. I saw Rashawn Slater shut him down last year. A rookie absolutely took him out of the game. And then even then, I saw many other plays in which, or many other games in which Ngakoue didn't do much. So do the Raiders take a defensive end? Maybe you keep that 22nd pick and you wait for a guy like Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Purdue has a good defensive end, right? So there's so many players that you can target. But should the Raiders trade up and get a guy, or should they just sit back at 22 and take a defensive player? Or would you go the opposite approach? Let's go all in on Devontae Adams. Let's take another wide receiver with pick 22. And let's just build on the offensive side, and let's just have this high-powered offense with Derek Carr. I think that's also another alternative approach. Josh McDaniels with Tom Brady ran a spread offense at times, right, towards the end of games and stuff like that. And Derek Carr's had his most success in that spread style of offense. And if that's the case, if Josh McDaniels can get Derek Carr into that spread style of offense, and let's say he gets a guy like Devontae Adams out there for Derek. Let's say we get Darren Waller lined up in the slot and Hunter Renfrow on the opposite slot. How do you stop those three guys and then throw in a rookie wide receiver with pick 22? Rather, it's Treylon Burks. You throw a screen pass to him, he can take it for a touchdown, right? Or Chris Olave from Ohio State. There's so many guys that you can potentially take. And I think the Raiders need to definitely consider what they want to do. Build defensively or build offensively. Such an interesting thing going. Again, I'm very surprised that the Broncos went all in. But good for them, man. Let's be honest, right? As a Raider fan, you want the Raiders to do what they can do to win. The Raiders have decided to stick with Derek Carr, right? That's what they've decided to do. And I hope that in 3 years, the Denver Broncos haven't won a Super Bowl and the Raiders are winning 7-8 games with Derek Carr at quarterback. I hope that's not where we're at in 3 years, because the Denver Broncos have taken the opposite approach. Think about this. Over the past 15 years, the Broncos have sucked for a lot of that, but so have the Raiders. But the Broncos have a Super Bowl win, and they've been to the Super Bowl a second time, and they've been to the playoffs a couple times. The Raiders haven't done any of that. The Raiders have sucked in that time frame. And then the Broncos, on the other hand, take the opposite approach, in which they build a team, they build the roster, and then they trade or go out and get that best quarterback, the top 5 quarterback. And it's worked for them. And if it works again for them, if the Denver Broncos win another Super Bowl, how does that make the Raiders look, who are trying to build this team with Derek Carr at the helm, right? So it's really interesting, and it's kind of interesting the way the Raiders have kind of built their team, kind of constructed it since 2014. Even the Niners have taken that same approach as the Broncos, right? The Niners built a solid team. They've more quarterback, and now they're on their third or fourth quarterback. I'd say fourth quarterback since Alex Smith, right? They had the Alex Smith years, the Colin Kaepernick's years. They've had the Jimmy Garoppolo years, and now the Trey Lance years are about to start. And in that time frame, the Raiders have had Derek Carr, and that's all we've had. So I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that Davante Adams could potentially be brought to the Raiders. Some people have made the same. In fact, I think I saw something on either Twitter or on YouTube. Someone was talking about how it was fake news, or it was fake that Davante Adams apparently never bought a house in Vegas, and there was some fake account reporting it or whatever. I'm not sure exactly where I saw that. It may have been Twitter, but Davante Adams getting franchise tag has nothing to do with if he actually purchased the house in Vegas or not. The person that put that news out there is a very solid source, knows what's going on in Vegas. That person has been right many times in the past. Davante Adams indeed did buy a house in Las Vegas. Again, just because he got franchise tag doesn't mean he will be with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers may still trade him. Adams, the franchise tag is what, $17, $18 million, $20 million. Adams can still say, I'm not playing for that. I want $30 million, or trade me, right? Adams doesn't have to play under the franchise tag. So the Raiders could still go out and get a Davante Adams. Again, it's going to be very interesting what the Raiders end up doing here. I think we should go all in on Davante Adams. I don't think, some people think that it's going to cost the Raiders a first-round pick. I don't think that's actually true, right? I don't think that it's going to cost the Raiders a first-round pick. Davante Adams, just like DeAndre Hopkins, will likely go for a second or third round pick. It's not going to be a top tier pick, that the way that a lot of people kind of think about. Arkham Raiders said, Sanjit, we need to focus on pass rush and secondary. And I totally agree with that. The Raiders have to fix their pass rush, have to fix their secondary. And I shouldn't use the word fix their pass rush, because we already have a really good pass rush, but we need to upgrade our spot outside of Max Crosby. Some people love Yannick Ngakoue. I'm not of that belief. I'm not a huge fan of Yannick Ngakoue. I think Ngakoue is a little bit overrated in the sense that he disappears at times, and he doesn't have that impact. If Max Crosby doesn't get a sack, people say he disappears, but Max Crosby still gets pressure. Max Crosby still gets after the quarterback. That's not the same thing with Yannick Ngakoue. He really struggles. And I think the Raiders need to consider fixing that pass rushing position. Now, some people will say, well, we have Malcolm Koonce, which is true, but Malcolm Koonce is also a Gus Bradley guy. I don't know how he fits in the Patrick Graham defense. Now, I'm sure they can obviously make it work. I'm sure they can obviously figure it out. But the thing is what do the Raiders do, man? What do they do with that pass rush? How do you fix it? Personally, Jermaine Johnson is a player that I absolutely love, and I think he's going to be there with pick 22. I think the Raiders should highly consider taking it. Alternatively, you can start by getting rid of some of your guys, right? Like guys that have value, right? Like, for example, Cleveland Farrell still has some value. Maybe you get a third or fourth round pick for him. Trade him away to a team that feels they can develop him. Unless the Raiders feel like they can develop him, get rid of him. Then you look at a guy like Jonathan Abram or Josh Jacobs. Are those guys worth it? Could you trade them away? We're going to decline the fifth-year option on all those players. I'd be very surprised. Maybe Josh Jacobs, we pick that up because that could be cheap, fairly cheap compared to what he will end up getting. But the Raiders got to fix this roster, man, and it really starts right now. The Denver Broncos just made the best move of the offseason so far. So, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys are not a member to this channel, make sure to become a member. It shows me real quick on the side of the member comments, and I always will get to those. Raider Outlaw here is a member. You guys can see that little button right there to the right of his name, or that symbol, I should say. Raider said, I like this news. Even if Karen Rodgers got traded to the Broncos, iron sharpens iron. AFC West is the best division in football, always competitive. That is a fact. The AFC West is now the best division in all of football. But unfortunately, here's the issue that I have with that. We're going to play 6 games this season against top tier quarterbacks and top tier teams. We can literally win 2 of those 6 games, and that's going to impact where we rank in the playoff picture. I know we ultimately get better, right? Because it is a fact, right? As teams kind of get better, the alternative teams get better, right? The teams in that division get better. So as the Broncos get better, as the Chiefs get better, the Raiders get better as well, as do the Chargers. The only issue I have is the fact that I feel at the moment I feel like the Raiders have the worst quarterback in the division. And I don't think having the best quarterback necessarily matters, but I think having the best defense is going to make a big difference. And for the Raiders right now, we may have the worst defense out of the entire division. And that's kind of what bothers me because I think with Derek Carr, you can beat any of those teams. Any given Sunday, you can win with Derek Carr. So Derek Carr is not the issue. But the fact that those other teams have now upgraded their quarterbacks makes me think, like, how is our defense going to compete? How are we going to fix this defense? Last year I was all in for Christian Barmore. I said the Raiders have to draft Christian Barmore. And guess what? Christian Barmore is a superstar player. He's going to be an all-pro player one day in the league. He is probably a top 10 defensive tackle already, right? And truth be told, by the end of next year, he may be a top 5 defensive tackle. And the Raiders instead took Alex Leatherwood, which is terrible for whatever reason. And those type of decisions, right? Cleveland Farrell's another example, is why Mike Mayock and John Gruden are not here anymore. Those guys were terrible at drafting. But again, when you look at kind of what the Raiders have done, we need to fix the defense now. There's no excuses for this. Silver wins at Sanji. Is it possible that we could still make a reasonable trade for Adams? What would it take? Absolutely. Second or third round pick. I think it could absolutely happen. Raid the Tape, big shout out to you, man. We got to get on a live together here soon. It says, yes, the 49ers built a team and capable of making conference championship games with Cap, Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo, while they were all paid more than Carr, and we're still building, shaking my head, organizational. I don't know the exact numbers on the top of my head, to be honest with you. I know Jimmy Garoppolo made a lot of money this past year, but the Niners also made the decision that he's making too much money and he's not worth it, right? Then I think that's why they kind of moved on from him and went, which are going to go with Trey Lance. They're getting cheaper with their quarterback because they have that team to kind of support that rookie quarterback. I'm not 100% sure with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick's contract values, but big shout out to you, man. I totally agree. The Raiders got to put that team together. Raider Outlaw said, admit it, we were excited for Unique, but I'm happy I'm not the only one who noticed. Where was he the whole season? Facts. 100% facts. The Raiders got to fix it, man. Absolutely have to fix it. I see a comment here. Someone saying the Raiders should draft Jameson Williams from Alabama, the wide receiver. This one comes from Freaky Raider. I agree, man. I'm a big Jameson Williams guy. The guy has speed. He has talent. He has quickness. I think he is coming off a torn ACL. But he is on track and he should be good to go. But with that being said, like, Raiders got to do something, man. They got to do something. And again, there's 2 approaches, right? Build on the offense side of the ball, or you can build on the defense side of the ball. And I almost feel like we should build on the defense side of the ball because let's face it. Let's say we have the number 1 offense in the league, right? And let's say we're putting up 32 points every single game. And then let's say one week the offense has a bad game. Derek Carr has struggles. He has a bad game, and we scored 17 points. Are we going to win that game? Not with the worst defense in the league, we're not, right? So I think we need to fix the defense. And I think we really have to consider where the Raiders are right now in terms of talent. I said this last year, and I stick with it. The Raiders' offensive unit last year, at least the unit going into the week 1, was a top 6 or 7 offensive playmaker unit, right? When you have guys like Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, Kenny Drake, and then your 4th or 5th options is Zay Jones and Brian Edwards. I think that's a top 6 or 7 unit of offensive playmakers. Now, obviously, that kind of didn't stick, right? Kenny and Drake out for the year. Henry Ruggs out for the year. Darren Waller was hurt. But I still think going into next year, our offensive weapons are still pretty damn good, right? Like, let's be honest, right? Our current offensive playmakers, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake will come back next year. Those are still 4 offensive playmakers. Then you throw in Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards. They're okay. We'll see if Bryan Edwards can develop into anything this year. But then let's say you, on the other end, go out and get the number 1 corner or a top 5 corner in the draft this year, right? And let's say that corner ends up being good. Then you have a really solid corner. You have Trayvon Mullen, you have Nate Hobbs, you have Merrick. You kind of see if Jonathan Abrams the guy for this scheme. If not, then you replace him and you bring in another safety. Maybe you trade up and get a guy like Kyle Hamilton, right? A game changer, a superstar player, right? So there's so much the Raiders can absolutely do. I think building the defense side of the ball makes sense. We got the first super chat of the day. This one comes from Pharaoh NFL. Big shout out to you, man. He said, fellow content creator, love the channel. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that, man. If you guys are not subscribed to Pharaoh NFL, go check him out. You guys could probably just click his name right there. Check him out. He makes great YouTube content. Make sure you guys check him out. I appreciate the donation. I appreciate the super chat. A lot of people are talking about Russell Wilson and the fact that he's washed. And I'm very surprised that people really think Russell Wilson is washed. I'm not sure why people think that. Russell Wilson, just before this past season, people were saying he's a top 5 quarterback. When Raider Nation wanted Russell Wilson, right, they were saying he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't know how that changed. I don't know how Russell Wilson isn't a top 5 quarterback. Keep in mind, Russell Wilson had a bad year last year, but Russell Wilson also had surgery mid-season, right? That's not an easy thing to come back from, right? Yeah, I think he had like a finger surgery or something mid-season. That's difficult to come back from. On top of that, you have surgery mid-season. When you come back, you have this whole mental aspect to it, right? I remember back when I used to play football, I broke my hand. I believe it was my freshman year, or it was my sophomore year, and I had a huge mental thing for the first, I'd say 2 or 3 games after that, or scrimmages or whatever, right after that, after breaking my hand. Russell Wilson plays in the NFL, right? I played in high school. Russell Wilson plays in the NFL, and he had full-on surgery on his finger. And then he came back mid-season, and he still struggled a little bit, and they didn't win a ton of games. But Russell Wilson's still a damn good quarterback. Again, John Castro said his finger got mangled. He's not throwing the same, and that could be true, right? That absolutely could be true. But I do expect Russell Wilson to come back this year, 100% healthy, much better. And I know some people are also saying that Russell Wilson's about to downgrade in talent, and that's not true at all. I know DK Metcalf had a great career with Russell Wilson at quarterback, and I can't think of the other wide receiver on the top of my head, but he also has had a great career as well. Those 2 guys have had great careers with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. We'll see how those 2 guys do at Drew Lock going forward, because they're not going to be the same type of players. They're not going to be the same type of guy with Drew Lock at the helm. Russell Wilson's going to make Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy much better. Tyler Lockett's the other wide receiver. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are about to have much worse seasons. People may start saying DK Metcalf's not as good as we thought, right? Because of the fact that he's not going to have Russell Wilson. He'll have Drew Lock or someone else throwing him the ball. Either way, we're about to see that the current quarterback for the Denver Broncos is about to change that entire offense. Last year, the Broncos were a bottom 5 offense. I can guarantee you there will be a top 10 offense this year. Let's not forget, Russell Wilson is better than Derek Carr, and there's no question about it. Shout out to you, Black Suit, for the $2 donation without saying anything. I appreciate that. Larry Millette, $5 super chat, said Raiders now have the 4th best quarterback in the division, are about to pay him $40 million a year, LMAO. That's what the Raiders are about to do, man. We're about to pay Derek Carr $40 million. Here's another thing. This actually helps Derek Carr in his value. His value actually just increased a little bit. Because Derek Carr is now about to tell the Raiders that, hey, if you don't have a quarterback, you guys are about to play Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert. Those are the 3 quarterbacks you will go up against. And I want more money because I'm still a top 12-ish quarterback. And he can absolutely do that and demand $45 million per year, right? Average per year value. Either way, it's going to be very, very interesting what the Raiders do. I do think I do think Derek Carr is the 4th quarterback in the division. But I, again, think the Raiders can still win with Derek Carr. I just think we need to build a better defense. But I will also say this, right? The offense that Derek Carr had last year is probably the best offense he's going to have. Like, let's not forget there's a salary cap in place. You can't have a great defense. You can't have a great quarterback, a great wide receiver, a great tight end, a great runner. You can't have all these players paid. You have to let some of these guys go. So if the Raiders want to get a guy like Devontae Adams and pay him $20 million, then you may have to let Darren Waller go because Darren Waller is going to also want 15 million. Or you may have to let Hunter Renfrow go because Renfrow is also going to want 12 to 13 million. Or you may have to let Josh Jacobs go, right? So you have to make your decisions on who you're going to keep and who you're going to get rid of, especially if you pay Derek Carr, because we need to invest some cap on the defense side of the ball, and we will, right? Max Crosby is about to get paid $25-ish million, or maybe more than that, right? So you have to really consider who you're going to pay, who you're not going to pay. Uh, Jacob Cruz said Carr is better than Herbert. I think it's an argument you can make, right? Some people say Herbert's better. Some people will say Carr's better. In just my personal opinion, I think Justin Herbert's better. And I only say that because Justin Herbert in his first 2 years has shown me, and again, this is obviously based on potential and kind of the direction he's headed. Justin Herbert's already shown me in his first 2 years that he's a superstar. Decision-making, pocket awareness, being able to move in and out. And I understand that some people think Herbert has a better offensive, weapons around him, and I disagree with that. I don't think the Chargers' offensive players are better. I think Keenan Allen's super overrated because he is up there in age. He's a bigger wide receiver, which means he's generally slower. I think Mike Williams is a pretty good talent, but I think Justin Herbert is the reason why Mike Williams just happened to have one of his best years of his career. Then you look at his offensive line, and I will say that Rashawn Slater is a great left tackle. But outside of that, I don't really know any of their other offensive linemen. And even with the Raiders, Derek Carr has had a great offensive line in the past, right? And again, this is just my opinion. I think Justin Herbert's better than Derek Carr. Could that flip? Absolutely. I don't think Derek Carr has had his best year yet, right? And I actually said that in a video that will probably release a little bit later on. I don't believe that Derek Carr has had his best year yet. I think Derek Carr is still going to have a better year. Unfortunately for the Raiders, Derek Carr wants $40 million, and that's just not how you win. You can't win paying a guy $40 million. In fact, the statistics back me up. The average value of the two starting quarterbacks since 2015 is $13 million. That's what the average quarterback has made, or at least that's what their cap hit has been. $13 million, the average of the two starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl since 2015. You're not going to win paying Derek Carr $40 million on a salary cap basis, but obviously, you can kind of fix around how you account, how you accrue for the contract. Right? If Derek Carr gets an extension for 2 years, he has 3 years on his contract. You can kind of average that out, add a void year, which gives you a couple more years. The Buccaneers did it with Tom Brady, right? They're going to pay Tom Brady for the next 2 to 3 years. This year and then following 2 years after that, they're paying Tom Brady money still from a cap perspective, not actual cash, just an accrual perspective. They'll still incur a cap hit. But either way, Raid the Tape said just last year when we debated, you said Carr reached his peak, and I told you he hasn't, though. I did say that Derek Carr has reached his peak, but I agree. I think Derek Carr under a new regime can definitely be better. I think under John Gruden, I don't know if he could have been any better than what he was, but obviously that's to be told. It's gonna be very interesting what ends up happening. Some people don't like Derek Carr. Some people truly believe Derek Carr is the biggest issue with the Raiders. I wouldn't say he is. I don't think Derek Carr is the biggest issue with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that there's more issues with the Raiders, but I think paying Derek Carr $40 million would be an issue at the top of the list. You can't win that way. It's impossible. It hasn't happened. No quarterback has made $40 million and won. It just hasn't happened. Patrick Mahomes is going to count, I think, $45 million against the cap this year. They're in trouble, right? They franchise tagged Orlando Brown. They can't extend him to a long-term contract. They want to give Tyreek Hill more money. It doesn't look good for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to start losing players. Tyrann Mathieu is about to become a free agent, and they may not be able to bring him back. So there's definitely a lot going. Maurice said the Broncos back on top, baby. I'm going to assume you're a Broncos fan. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Man, it's crazy because one of my good friends is a Denver Broncos fan. And he was telling me that the Denver Broncos are going to go all in on either Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson this year. We talked about how they skipped on Justin Fields last year, as well as Mac Jones, and how I felt that was a mistake. They should have taken one of those guys. but it looks like they actually made the right decision. Um, and I agree with Outlaw of Torn. He said the Broncos just became a contender. They didn't just become a contender. The Broncos did not just become a contender. The Broncos just became a Super Bowl competing team. They will be a top. Denver Broncos will now compete for a Super Bowl for the next 3 to 4 years, every year for the next 3 to 4 years, because they have a ton of players on rookie contracts. They have a ton of players that have already agreed to cheap contracts. They have superstar players. Patrick Surtain is going to be a lockdown corner. You look at Justin Simmons, the safety. You look at some of their defensive linemen. You look at their offensive linemen, right? And kind of how they've been trying to fix that up. The Denver Broncos are a stacked ass team, man. And it's unfortunate because the Denver Broncos took the opposite approach of what the Raiders did, right? The Denver Broncos decided to go all in on their team, and the Raiders went all in on their offense and their quarterback. And look at where the two teams are now. The Denver Broncos, and again, who knows? What if Russell Wilson does indeed suck? What if Russell Wilson isn't that good, right? Although I highly doubt that's the case. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out real soon and real quick what's going to end up happening here. And the Raiders got to figure it out, man. They absolutely have to figure it out. I appreciate all of you guys that are here. Over almost 700 you guys are here, man. If you guys can all hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really appreciate it. It's gonna be interesting, man. I'm excited. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you guys are not subscribed. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. But let's see what happens, man. I expect the Raiders to make a ton of moves, and I will be going live more often, so just be on the lookout for that. Be tuned in every Sunday going forward. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.